that's exactly why I'm having, I'm not egotistical enough to think that I have one shred of hope of adding anything, but maybe this room is more for my psychological well-being than anything else, and you guys are just my counselors. But I feel like people who are good people and who, in most cases, have decent views, have been absolutely led astray by their addiction to Trump's version of reality. The Virginia Dufresne thing is a great example. Here's a woman who committed suicide, and nobody, because Donald Trump allowed Jeffrey Epstein to steal her from his employ. He didn't look after a young woman who went to work for him. And so she probably trusted him. I remember being a teen and going to work for someone, and I wasn't a young woman, but if one of my daughters went to work for someone, I would think that they were going to have some effort to look after her. But this was a young woman who had no family to look after her. And so we have these people who argue vehemently that we believe in family values, and yet they don't care that women and girls have been abused, and they're not willing to hold their leader accountable. I agree that my title here is inflammatory, and I have made some mistakes in being inflammatory with respect to some of the titles I put up, but I don't know what to do with my family who defend something so indefensible. That's the problem. So Andrew, I like your point, and I'm not a deep history of post World War II Germany, but my understanding is from the reports that I've heard that many Germans could not accept the reality of what Hitler had done. They wanted to deny the reality of it. And that's consistent. There's another area where maybe is interesting. If you read the book about the Donner Party, they were unaware because of they've been boiled so badly in their terrible situation of how crazy it was to be cannibals. You look at as I say, the slavery situation. People become irrational, and Elle and you make a good point that people are just putting their heads down and trying to survive. It's a fair point, but at what point do you say, wake up, people? This is, maybe your survival matters, but maybe something else matters even more. I care about the children taken from you, the Ukrainians, because I have children, and I can't imagine my children or grandchildren being taken, and the president of the country that I live in, that I pay my taxes in, laughs it off. Now people will argue he didn't laugh it off. Well, how many things can you argue about that he didn't do this, he didn't do that, at some point, do Republicans take any responsibility? And this is why, if my title is inflammatory, I recognize it, but the man did have 34 felonies. And people will say, oh, well, you can't trust it, it was politicized and so forth. At what point do we hold him accountable? And in this case, it is so clear that this woman is being held against her will, that, with all due respect to Tucker and everybody who may feel that I picked the wrong image, we have to pick something. I would be happy to have anyone throw in who wants to.
Thanks for having me on your stage. I would tend to side with Rick and Elle. It's not a Rick. It's more the banality of evil that people in a frightened, stressed state are going to just react at the base of their brain and probably in a self-interest way, which is, I'd rather be a bystander than a person on the train. In self-interest today versus the logic and educated Germans that I know, America is people who don't care about you or your emotions or your grandchildren or anything else. They care about their bank account, and they've learned that cheating wins in their case. It's not the system that we wanted, but we have to say that our Constitution is vulnerable for people to elect a monarch, and we've done that. Yeah, yes, they talk about partial history class about the Unitarian Executive, and we've been on a slow march. But all of the above, Trump hijacked that party. Some of those people are still there. Many of them are especially in the political class, are still incumbents, and they're still writing the incentives to get them there. But just like Congress people, inside trade, it's an act. It's not a part of our mind. But the same people that are supposed to regulate a democracy are supposed to vote on democracy. And people that are supposed to be subject to the courts should honor the court's decision. But that's broken. So if you've got people who deny facts and deny reality, it's more what's in it with them. Why are they not open to just facts? Facts.
Yeah.
I want to yield to Yasi, but I just want to add two quick things. One is that I think it is quite truly human nature that we are sort of narcissistic and we're affected by what we feel like affects us directly. And I think that is part of the problem, is we still don't have enough people seeing that they are, and the people who are their neighbors are being affected. But I wanted to say one other thing, which is that when I have these kinds of conversations, and when television first happened, I mean, many years ago, I remember watching
Hello? Is this thing working?
I think it was maybe Serbia.
Hello?
I don't remember who was fighting, but I remember thinking, oh, good. Nazi Germany could never happen again, because now we can see it in real time. Because I, of course, grew up. How did this happen? How could they not know? And I was like, oh, okay, but guess what? I wasn't sitting there watching what was happening in Syria, seeing that they were poisoning their own people, because it didn't affect me. So, we have this beautiful story in our history of Jewish people of what we call the righteous Gentiles or the righteous Christians, I don't know which it is, that when you go to Auschwitz or when you go to, when you go to Yad Vashem in Israel, which is the memorial to the Holocaust, we honor the righteous Germans who took and hid people. I mean, we know the famous story of Anne Frank. And so then I have to ask myself the question, would I hide an immigrant who was in danger? Would I, if I was going through the airport and I saw somebody pull aside a brown or black person and be in some way interrogating them, would I stand there or would I walk away? And I think those questions ultimately have to start with ourselves.
Elle, you are brilliant. That is exactly why I'm holding this room. I wish I could do more. I wouldn't mind being shot for my country. I wish we had more people here. Steve, I see you here, and I would love to know what you think. Now, before people listen to Steve, he gave one of his sons to this country. So Steve has a right, by virtue of the sacrifice he has made, to have an opinion, even if I disagree with it. Steve, what do you think?
Well, yeah, and you talk about the things I've heard discussed here, and I'm not trying to go at anyone specifically because I hear this all the time, but this assumption that somehow everybody that voted Republican is moronic, and everyone that voted Republican somehow is gave leave of their senses to reality and facts. It's much more nuanced and it's much more complicated than that. You could break it down if that's the way you want to see people. I mean, head, but it's an unrealistic view of why people done what they done and what motivated. You know, some people can say we seen policies that was antithetical to everything that we believe in, that everything that we stand for, and we can't go there anymore. For instance, if I was in a department store and a man dressed up like a woman wanted to go in the bathroom after my wife had entered the bathroom, I'd have real issues with that. Now, a lot of people just slough that off and say that's no big deal. But these are components. When people seen our southern border just being overrun with migration waves after migration waves, just pummeling our southern border in complete chaos, that became a motivation.
Wait, the bathrooms or the borders? I know you were concerned about both.
Well, I mean,
Well, why don't you pick one though? It's hard to follow.
I'm trying to articulate the facets of what may drive someone to vote for or against something.
Okay, so
Now, you know,
Jay makes a fair point. You have to stay on one thing. If you want to pick bathrooms, pick bathrooms. If you want to pick borders, pick borders. But I think it's hard to engage in a discussion when you have a shotgun as opposed to a rifle mentality. It's kind of the way I feel about tariffs. So would you like to talk about a man going into a woman's bathroom, or would you like to talk about borders?
well, Alan, what I was trying to explain to you is it's like the many facets of what a complicated decision tree in any subject has many points to it. That's what I'm trying to articulate. And all I hear from people when they talk about Republicans and what maybe motivated them is there is out of touch with reality when it may just be, it could just be that we have a disagreement about how to construct a society and what becomes palatable as a social compact. That's what governments are. They're a social compact between people. That's why we have, right. That's why we have such a division here. And if your starting point is that my disagreement is with someone's touch with reality, it's awful hard to negotiate.
Well, Steve, let's just see if we
How
agree on
does the
some
topic
facts.
at hand?
Wait. Let's start with some facts. I'm perfectly willing to entertain both of the ladies here, but I want to see if Steve agrees on a couple of facts. Was Donald Trump a convicted felon? Did he get 34 felonies?
That was a misuse of judicial power in a way that was unbelievable.
According to you, Steve,
Well,
according to you and according to Fox News. But these were...
No, Alan, let me correct you a little bit. Because that's not me and that's not Fox News. I've heard a couple of attorneys and U.S. federal attorneys that has articulated this subject.
You can always find, Steve, someone who disagrees with a judicial decision. Do you agree that we need to live by the rules of a court?
Yeah, but here's, well, hold it. That's there. You know, Madison and Jefferson talked about the misuse of judicial powers when our country was first formed. James Madison and Thomas Jefferson, two of the important figures in the founding of the country, talked about it.
Let me.
Well, it's relevant.
I'm trying to summarize it because this is just going to go on. You don't agree with the decision that the court made, and you find people who align with your view that they don't agree with the decision that the court made, but you still do believe in the American courts when they suit your opinion. Is that right?
No, I look at each court case and analyze it on its merit.
And
That's
your
it.
opinion.
And if the merits justify,
What did you say? Your opinion, Steve, is superior to the opinion of the jury that was justly sat. Let me ask you. So we're not going to agree on this. Let's just agree that we're not going to agree.
no, we're not.
Okay, that's fine. And I'm eager to maintain what common ground we can find. Do you agree that it is wrong for this Democratic House member to be held captive in the Texas House?
I'm not sure which one you're referring to.
I'm referring to the woman in the article who is a Texas representative. Her only crime was getting elected to the Texas State House and refusing to be part of a quorum. Do you agree that that's a reason to hold an American captive?
I don't know Texas law well enough, or the House rules that are involved here to articulate one way or the other. I plead ignorance on the facts.
Thank you. Jane, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just wanted to get Steve on record here.
Oh, no, it wasn't me. I think it was Sue Sessom.
Oh, Sue,
I'm
go ahead.
sorry, it was me, and I apologize if mine came off mic earlier.
No,
I
it's
just
okay.
want to say that what I'm hearing is a bunch of denying, deflecting, and the moving of goalposts. And I'm with you, Alan. You know, I hear it, but I don't know how to get around it because the questions are not being answered. When you ask a yes or no, you get, well, it's more complicated than just that until they want a direct answer. So it's the most confusing. I've never had such a difficult time having a critical thinking argument, discussion. It's not even an argument, it's a discussion. Because it's gaslighting, it's moving the goalposts, it's saying that things are not happening the way they are, and playing this what if game. And what about? For example, we're in this room asking very simple question. Somebody is being held without their will in a chamber and is being given one of two options. Now, those are facts. They're not my facts. They're not your facts. They're the facts that are being presented to us as the outside world. Yet, we're still finding people coming in here telling us that what we're seeing is not what we're seeing. And if we are seeing it, then maybe this is the way it might play out. And that's the part of all of this that boggles me to the nth degree that makes me say, where do we find the common ground? So
Can I ask you a question?
allow me to finish. So when Alan, I apologize to you and the rest of the room. Yes, I sound emotional, but I'm coming from a place of experience, understanding, research, and a lived experience from where I am. And I also want to say, you're talking to somebody that's on the front lines at Home Depot every morning, preventing the race. You're talking to somebody who stops them on the front lines. So yes, I am out there doing work, and I am putting my money where my mouth is. So when people come in here and start to say, it's either the bathroom or the border, and I'm like, come on, we're still at that argument when we've got people being arrested, sitting in a wheelchair without a leg? Come on. We need to start having a better discussion here, people.
Sue, I agree with you. And I want to be as respectful as I can to everybody on the stage. Steve did give one of his sons to this nation. How he can follow a leader who calls that son a loser is beyond me. It's absolutely beyond me. But I love Steve. And I believe that while he may have very confused thinking, while he may be a victim of watching too much Fox News, which is not reality, I do think he should have the opportunity to express his view. Would you be willing to let him ask you a question?
I have been in rooms with Steve way too many times in the critical thinking room. Honestly, I don't put my energy where I know it's not going to be well spent. Like I just got done saying, I'm out there on the front lines where I can make a difference. I can't make a difference there, so I will respect Steve from afar, and I will respect the service his son gave to our country. None of that was disrespect.
Thank you. That is beautiful.
Could I just interject something now?
You can interject it, but you can't ask her a question because she said she knows. So go ahead.
Okay, I don't care. where someone has been arrested, should you have the full facts of the law before you analyze that situation? Or do I analyze a situation not knowing the charging document, not knowing Texas law that's involved in it? Are these not critical points to say, is this appropriate or inappropriate? Now, I work with the police every day. I'm a city councilman. I have to work with the police all the time. I have to analyze these things. If someone comes in and they're brought before our municipal judge, I have to make sure that our police department, when they're charging, are out doing the proper thing. I can't go on emotion. I have to know that, well,
You're going
this
on
is
emotion
relevant.
right now, Steve.
This is
Emotion is not
relevant,
the
Jane.
problem.
Jane, the law is relevant, and the charging document is relevant. And if you don't know the particulars of the charging document and you don't know the law as it reads, you cannot analyze this situation properly. It's impossible.
But Steve, you don't really believe in the law because you're willing to let someone with 34 felonies, you support somebody with 34 felonies in spite of the fact that he was found by 12 jurors within our system. So you believe in the law when it's convenient to you, when it reflects your facts, but you basically just said that that was not a legitimate court case. I don't know how you decide that something isn't legitimate, and my view is not as important as yours because you're a city councilman, maybe. I mean, I think Hanson is more worthy.
Alan, let me ask you a question. Can I ask you one question?
You can ask me a question. Not, the ladies have to be willing to.
Let me just ask you this sincere question. Have you ever heard of a jury case where you have 3 different charges and the jury is not instructed that they have to unanimously agree on any charge that they bring back as guilty? Isn't that a function of the jury system? There has to be unanimity. If you have a jury trial and you have one charge that has to be agreed upon and one of the jurors says no, the charge cannot stand. It's a hung jury. So why in this particular case, when the judge sent the jury to debate this, he did not instruct them that when they brought back a decision, it had to be brought back in unanimous agreement on a particular charge?
Steve,
Just a question.
let's just try a different question because I think you are using a very specific to try to defeat a general argument, and I see you do this all the time, and I still love you, I still respect you, but answer this for me. Do you think a man with 34 felonies should ever be president of the United States?
Well, no, I don't.
Thank you. Let's leave that one there. Let's leave that one there.
Yeah.
Because the end. That's very good. Thank you, Steve. I really appreciate that answer. Okay, does anyone else want to say something?
Yeah, this is John. I'd like to say something.
Go ahead, Congressman.
Yeah, I mean,
The candidate.
if you listen to Steve, he said, the social compact has been broken. And, if you listen to what you're saying, and what that film producer says, Michael Moore, Trump's presidency was going to be the biggest FU to the establishment and to the government of all time. So, you're saying that the American people were willing to vote for a criminal with all these felonies and all these charges because they're that upset with their governance, with the government
John,
itself.
I'm not saying that. You're putting words in my mouth. I'll tell you what.
I'm trying to come together with a logical conclusion based on what
Yes.
I'm listening to.
Yes, but you just said I'm saying something that I'm not saying. You want to know what I believe happened in the 2024 election? America was unwilling to vote for a black female. It's that simple. The Bradley effect is still alive and well. That's why. It didn't have anything to do with a mandate on immigration. It sure as heck didn't have anything to do with imposing taxes on people illegally. It was a mandate or a function of the Bradley effect. People could not imagine a black woman president. It's that
See,
simple.
that's your projection. Steve and I and others
That's
may
my
have a
opinion.
different.
It's not a projection. It's an
Well,
opinion.
it's your opinion, but it's still considered a projection. You're projecting your opinion. I am projecting my opinion. You may not agree with my opinion.
Hey, can we, before we leave the Texas woman and Steve, can I jump in with something?
Please,
This feels like a
please
very
do.
good conversation.
Please do.
Yeah, so the idea that we sort of don't know the facts enough to understand what's going on here, like if you work with law enforcement, like you understand like the different evidentiary standards that exist for taking different actions as a law enforcement officer, at least at some level, right? Like you must. So like I don't understand. Sorry, did I cut out for a second? I was getting a call.
No, we still have you.
Oh, you heard me. Okay, great. Okay, yeah. So like you know there's different evidentiary standards, and you also know that there has to be a law that is being applied, and that's not actually what's happening here. And it's like not a hard thing to look at. I mean, it's like trying to make an excuse for a police officer to pull someone over because they thought they looked funny, or they don't think that someone like that should be driving that kind of car. Like those are indefensible actions, at least under the law. So I don't understand how you think that this is so complex. And just briefly, there are different states and different jurisdictions where juries have different standards. I believe, like for example, in Louisiana, I'm pretty sure that it's like intended to get a conviction. But
Okay,
that's sort of
I'm a little confused. Stop just a second. You don't understand how it's so complex. Are you talking to me or are you talking to Kitover? Who do you think is
no,
making it
I'm talking to
complex?
Steve.
Steve, okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
So
could I ask just a question? Now,
You engage in a dialogue.
yeah, can you articulate to me the law as it's written that she was charged with, or the procedure that may be in place in the Texas House that was invoked? I know neither of those. So in order for me to draw a conclusion about whether this was appropriate or not, I would have to actually know the law. And then my question to you would be, do you know the law, and was the law as it was charged misused?
No, what happened was they freestyled about law enforcement, right? So law enforcement is very prescriptive, right? We don't believe, especially when it comes to crime, it's not like a lot of gray area. Like there might be a lot of gray area, IP law or whatever, like, but you don't have a lot of gray area when it comes to criminal law. She had every right to walk out of the Capitol as a person, and she wasn't allowed to do that until she signed a permission slip. There was no law that was being invoked that had that prescribed within it. And it's not the person who's being detained to answer that question, which is part of what's wrong with your approach right now. Is it wasn't for her to tell the bailiff or whoever it was that operates in the Texas government and saying you're not allowed to leave right now. We're not going to let you. For her to convince them that she was somehow innocent of something. It's like you have to tell a person that you're detaining why you're detaining them within a certain prescribed amount of time and based on a certain prescribed number of reasons.
24 to 48 hours, they have to be told what they're being charged with.
I didn't say charge, I said detain. It's not the same thing. You do not have 24 while you're detaining.
That's the exact message about 24 to 48 hours of detaining. After that, they must be charged and not able to make cases.
You're literally saying stuff that doesn't make any sense. I'm not talking about charging.
You said stuff that
I'm not talking about charging. I'm talking about detaining.
That's what I'm saying.
You're not addressing the fundamental point. You're not addressing the fundamental point, which is you have to justify detaining someone. I agree with you that you have to charge someone within a certain amount of time to be able to continue detaining them. The question is like, if I get pulled over by an officer, okay, and they're like, sir, you're gonna have to come with us downtown. They need to tell me why. Which is fine. Like that's not even contentious. It's just like, cool. There's a reason why we're detaining you, and you're gonna have to come downtown for the detainment to be released. This isn't like a complicated thing. It's not some sort of gray area. This is very, very established.
Hey, can we move on, Your Honor?
Well, I'd love to get Steve to answer my question instead of other people jumping in.
Yeah, let's let Steve answer the question, specific question of these people. Let's let these two have their discussion. I will interrupt if anything else.
Okay, so according to what you're saying here, she was getting ready to leave the house floor, and she was accosted trying to leave the house floor, and detained is because I'm fuzzy on the facts of what happened here. This is the first time I've ever heard it. Is that what you're saying?
She was not allowed to leave. I mean, accosted is a charged word. So let's try to stay away from it.
Also, like, let's just say she's detained.
She wanted to go. They said you can't leave until you sign this, essentially this contract that says that you're gonna have a police escort for whatever period of time. I guess for as long as the special session is over, is my guess. But I'm not actually detail. And she said, I'm not gonna sign it. They said, well, you're not leaving the Capitol until you sign it.
And as a matter of principle, Steve, let's just not argue about specific details. As a matter of principle, when you think it is right.
No, let's not even go there yet. We know exactly what it is.
Okay, sure.
Let's just stick to, do you agree that to detain someone in that manner requires a legal justification? Let's just start there.
Well, now, I think that it's all tied up with the Democratic caucus reform and leading to other states. Isn't that what precipitated this?
That is definitely implicated, but that's not the reason the question.
Okay.
So if they had said, this is why we're detaining you, and this is the law that you're breaking, so they had some law that they not, then sure, but that's not what actually happened here. There's some other standard that was created on the fly.
Well, I don't know about legislative matters and the specific application.
I think it's important. The question is, if she's
I'm going to get to something here. I used to hold a Tier 1 hazmat classification, which meant that I've been trained and certified to deal with hazmat situations of the Tier 1. Well, and here's the thing. If I went to a site and they realized I had a hazmat Tier 1 certification and I tried to leave, I could be detained and arrested by the police. Now, does it apply to legislative matters? I don't know, but I do know in my case that they didn't have to have a charge if they realized I had that certification and there was an emergency going on and I tried to leave the situation with that certification. I could be detained and arrested for not applying my skills in that situation.
So, Steve, your point, if I understand it, your point is it should be okay for the Speaker of the House and the Governor of Texas to detain someone because their presence is necessary for a quorum, regardless of what their vote is. Is that your point?
Well, it could be typically what the agreed standard is in the state of Texas. I've seen this like if you're a firefighter and someone's injured and you try to walk away without rendering assistance, you can be charged.
Well, because in the U.S. House, in federal House, you could actually arrest a representative to make a quorum. So it may well be Texas law.
Yeah, and it is. And if it is, and each legislative body has, just like where I'm sitting council, we have our own standards and policies, and we have police there at our council meetings. And there are things that get you arrested.
Okay. Steve, thank you for cooperating in this discussion. I know it gets emotional for you. Your Honor, I hope that you feel that we were you. I think during this one is going to
I mean, completely not. I mean, he's saying that in other situations, there's laws that apply. Which is like, okay, yes, we all agree that laws exist, and that where they exist, they can be applied.
That's just your
But that's not the question. The question is, in this case, there was a law that was applied, and she was detained in a fashion that is inappropriate. He's not addressing any of the details of this particular situation, which is obviously, dodging the question. If you murder someone, I can be detained, of course, law exists, I agree.
Why in the House of Representatives for the United States,
sergeant at arms. See, if
Why
you
do you
can,
fight? Why do you fight?
you can do
What
that.
Donald Trump does to be okay, regardless of how immoral it is. If he has 34 felonies, you agreed you shouldn't have a president with 34 felonies. I think that is a win. I really think that is a win, and I hope when this idiot is out of office, we can agree, as both Democrats and Republicans, we don't ever again want to have someone with 34 felonies. You attack Joe Biden for his age, and you don't care about Donald Trump's age. You're asymmetric, and I love you, but you're asymmetric. That's
Well,
all.
I'm not trying to be contentious, and, Your Honor, I'm not trying to dodge. I'm trying to be genuine and truthful here. I'm not sure in each chamber what the procedures and what the enforcement of those procedures are. I know all these legislative bodies have sergeant at arms, and they can be, but I just don't know. And I don't know particulars. So I'm asking God.
Hanson, I would love to give you a chance to jump in on this and try to get away from